Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. So, if you've been holding on to your wallet, kind of going back and forth, wondering if the new AirPods 4 are actually worth the upgrade, well, you are in the exact right place. Today, we're completely breaking down the true value proposition of Apple's latest generation of earbuds. We're going to analyze the design, the sound, the everyday usability, and of course, look at the hard numbers to see exactly what Apple has delivered in this standard, non-ANC version of their iconic audio gear.
Right off the bat, we got to talk about the elephant in the room, because it is the absolute crux of the AirPods 4 experience. Apple definitely refined the shape here, and they noticeably boosted the audio, but they made a really bold, highly deliberate choice. They left out the silicone ear tips. No way around it. By removing those soft, deep ceiling tips, Apple is shifting the focus entirely to supreme, long-term comfort over maximum noise isolation. It's a super fascinating choice, and as we'll see, it literally completely defines who these earbuds are actually for.
So, here's our roadmap for today's explainer. First, form, looking at design and comfort. Second, fidelity, covering sound and call quality. Third, a battery life reality check. Fourth, the Apple ecosystem advantage. And finally, the final verdict.
All right, let's dive straight into Section 1, Form, covering design and comfort. You know, Apple really went back to the drawing board for this design, and it earned them a massive 9.5 out of 10 for form and a solid 9 for comfort. The stems, they're slightly shorter now, and the earbuds themselves are contoured to sit so much more naturally in your ear. And this is a big one. They finally feature an IP54 rating for sweat and water resistance. Pair that with the shiny new USB-C charging case, and these suddenly become incredibly viable for your daily gym sessions, those rainy commutes, or honestly just general everyday wear.
But listen, this new shape does introduce a very specific trade-off. On the Pro side, you've got this lightweight, premium finish device with a tiny USB-C case that is pretty much unbeatable when it comes to long-wear comfort. But on the con side, because there are no silicone tips, you just have to accept weak passive noise isolation. The open design means, for sure, you are going to hear the world around you. But rather than just seeing this as a negative, we kind of have to recognize it as a highly deliberate choice. For users who absolutely hate that plugged-up feeling of earbuds sealing deep into the ear canal, these are genuinely among the most comfortable earbuds on the market right now.
Moving right along to Section 2, Fidelity, Sound and Calls. Because hey, comfort is great and all, but how do they actually sound?
Honestly, Apple has made a really noticeable improvement over the older standard AirPods. The audio profile is surprisingly robust. The bass is definitely stronger than previous generations, but, and this is key, it remains clean and controlled. It's not overly boosted or muddy at all. The mid-range delivers excellent vocal clarity, which we'll touch on again in a second, and the treble stays highly detailed without ever crossing over into that harsh, piercing territory. Now, true audiophiles will absolutely point out the lack of premium, high-res codecs like LDAC or aptX, but Apple's internal tuning inside their own ecosystem is so dialed in that the overall balance just works phenomenally well for the everyday listener.
Let's actually break that sound down by use case to see how this translates to the real world. Music sits at a totally solid 8.5 out of 10, and gaming pulls an 8. But check out those top two scores, a 9 for movies and a phenomenal 9.5 out of 10 for podcasts. Remember that excellent vocal clarity we just talked about in the mid-range? Well, that specific tuning makes the AirPods 4 practically perfect for listening to spoken word content. It's like they were custom built for audiobooks or explainers just like this one.
And a huge reason movies scored a 9 out of 10 is because of this absolute game changer, personalized spatial audio. Even without the passive noise isolation of silicone tips, spatial audio drastically enhances the listening experience. By tracking your head movements and literally tailoring the audio to your specific ear shape, it creates this remarkably wide soundstage. It makes your movie or music playback feel completely three-dimensional and incredibly immersive, which really goes a long way in making up for that open-ear design.
Speaking of incredible processing, we have got to talk about call quality, which scored a massive 9 out of 10. The secret weapon here is voice isolation. This is advanced processing that actively reduces surrounding noise to make your speech clearer. Seriously, if you're taking a call in a loud cafe or a busy street, the AirPods 4 perform noticeably better than a lot of budget earbuds out there. They basically zero in on your voice and filter out all the chaos around you. So yes, you can take that Zoom meeting next to the guy aggressively blending a smoothie, and you'll still sound crystal clear.
Which brings us to Section 3, the battery life reality check. With all this crazy audio processing happening, what kind of stamina are we actually looking at?
So the crucial point here is managing our expectations. Apple claims up to 5 hours of listening time on a single charge. However, in real-world testing, with music at a moderate volume, you are looking at roughly 4.5 to 5 hours. And it's really important to note that if you are using them heavily for phone calls, constantly utilizing that intense voice isolation processing, it is going to drain the battery even faster. It's a perfectly adequate battery life for sure, but it's certainly not class-leading for this price point.
But hey, don't panic. That 8 out of 10 battery score is ultimately saved by the charging case. While the earbuds themselves might tap out around that 4.5-hour mark, the tiny, highly efficient case easily provides multiple recharges, pushing your total listening time up to an impressive 30 hours. So, battery anxiety really shouldn't be a big deal, unless you somehow plan on listening to an entire audiobook in one single uninterrupted sitting.
All right, now we arrive at Section 4, the Apple Ecosystem Advantage. And honestly, this is arguably the most important part of this entire explainer.
Everything we've talked about so far, the sound tuning, the voice isolation, the spatial audio, it is all powered by this, the H2 chip. This is Apple's proprietary processor, and it is exactly where the true magic of the AirPods 4 happens. But, and this is a massive but, this magic comes with a catch that entirely depends on what kind of smartphone you currently have in your pocket.
The contrast here is just stark. For iPhone users, the H2 chip creates an experience that feels completely effortless. You get instant pairing the second you flip open the case, you get Find My support, in-ear detection, automatic device switching, Siri integration, and even those cool new head gesture interactions. It is a wonderfully frictionless experience inside the walled garden. But if you step over to the Android side, the magic pretty much disappears. I mean, yes, they will still work as standard Bluetooth earbuds. The audio will still play, but you experience a complete loss of those smart, Apple-exclusive features. The value proposition drops right off a cliff if you step outside of the Apple ecosystem.
And that perfectly sets up Section 5, the final verdict. Let's bring all of these metrics together and talk about some real actionable purchasing advice. Based on all the data, you should absolutely buy these if you're an iPhone loyalist who practically lives inside the Apple ecosystem. If you prioritize easy pairing, everyday convenience, and long-term comfort above all else, these are fantastic. If you're someone who hates silicone tips and wants a reliable open-ear design for the gym, commuting, taking calls, and listening to your favorite spoken word content, the AirPods 4 are a brilliantly polished solution. It's a no-brainer.
Conversely, you should skip these, entirely, if you need total noise isolation and strong active noise cancellation. If you are a serious audiophile looking for deep, thumping, bass-heavy sound, look elsewhere. If you need maximum, class-leading, continuous battery life for marathon 8-hour sessions without popping them back in the case, these just aren't it. And most importantly, if you are an Android user, you can find much better value for your money with earbuds that don't lock their best features behind a specific operating system.
So, when you tally up the 9.5 for design, the 9 for comfort and calls, and factor in the solid audio and battery scores, the Apple AirPods 4 earn a highly respectable overall score of 8.7 out of 10. They are a beautifully engineered, highly polished, albeit specialized piece of technology that absolutely nails exactly what it sets out to do for its target audience. But before we go, it does leave us with a fascinating final thought to chew on. When a product is this good, but relies so heavily on the H2 chip and iOS to unlock its full potential, we kind of have to ask ourselves, are we just buying a great pair of earbuds today, or are we really just paying to lock ourselves deeper into Apple's walled garden? It's a genuine question about the true cost of convenience, and something to carefully weigh before you hit that checkout button. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I will catch you on the next one.